Hello friends, my name is Santosh Amtar Rautole, working as a lecturer in Sanjuni Institute of Pharmacy and Research, Kopargaon, Ahmednagar district. Today we are going to learn about the skeleton system. The bone from the framework of a body is called a skeleton. Let's start with the important function of the skeleton system. First, it provides the supporting framework of the body. Second, it forms the boundaries of the cranial, thoracic, and pelvic cavities. Third, it gives the protection to the delicate organ. Fourth, it forms the joints which are essential for the movement of body by muscles. Fifth, it gives the attachment to the voluntary muscles and tendons which help in the movement of joints. Sixth, it contains the red bone marrow in which red blood cells are developed. Seventh, it acts as a storehouse of minerals, especially calcium. Skeleton system is classified into the two types, axial skeleton system and appendicular skeleton system. Axial skeleton system consists of skull, vertebral column and thoracic cage, whereas appendicular skeleton system consists of shoulder girdle, upper limb, pelvic girdle and lower limbs. We can see the chart of axial skeleton system on our screen. It consists of skull, hide bone, vertebral column and thoracic cage. Skull consists of cranium, face, and auditory ossicles. Cranium contains 8 bones, pairs of parietal and pairs of temporal. Unpaired frontal, splenoid, occipital, and ethmoid bone. Face contains total 14 bones, pairs of maxilla, zygomatic, palatine, lacrimal, nasal, inferior nasal concha, and unpaired mandible and humor bone. Auditory ossicles contain pairs of malleus, incus, and step bone. Hyoid bone contains a single. Vertebral column contains 26 bones. Thoracic cage contains 25 bones. The total bones of axial skeleton system is 80. Now we can see the chart of appendicular skeleton system on our screen. It consists of pectoral girdle, upper limb, pelvic girdle, and lower limbs. Pectoral girdle contains pairs of scapula and clavicle bone. Upper limb contains pairs of humerus, ulna, radius, 16 carpels, 10 metacarpals, and 28 phalanges. Pelvic girdles contain pairs of hip bones. Lower limb contains pairs of femur, fibula, tibia, patella, 14 tarsals, 10 metatarsals, and 28 phalanges. Total 126 bone. Skull contains 28 bones of cranium, face bone, and auditory ossicles. And immovable joints that is found only in skull known as sutures. Number of sutures found in the skull, however, we categorize only the four prominent sutures. First, coronal sutures. A frontal bone and pairs of parietal bones unite to form a coronal sutures. Second, sagittal sutures. The pairs of parietal bone unite to form a sagittal sutures. Third, lamodoid sutures. The pairs of parietal bones and occipital bones unite to form a lamodoid suture. Shape of lamodoid sutures is resembled to the Greek word lambda. Fourth, squamous sutures. The pairs of parietal bone and temporal bone unite to form a squamous sutures. Cranium is a vault of brain and also provide the bony protections. It is made up of 8 bones, pairs of parietal and temporal, and unpaired frontal, splenoid, occipital, and ethmoid ribs. 12 pairs of ribs are curved bone located serially in the either lateral side of thoracic cage. Ribs provide the attachment between the sternum and vertebral column. Ribs are roughly C-shaped structure. The first 7 pairs of ribs has direct attachment with the sternum by costal cartilage, hence name as true ribs. True ribs are also named as vertebrosternal ribs. The remaining five pairs of ribs has indirect or no attachment with the sternum by costal cartilage, named as false ribs. The 8th, ninth, and 10th pair of the false ribs attach with each other and then with the cartilage of the 7th pair of the ribs. The 8th, ninth, and 10th pair of the false ribs named as vertebrochondral ribs. The anterior end of the 11th and 12th pairs of ribs are free. They does not have an attachment directly or indirectly to the sternum. Hence, these false ribs are named as floating ribs. Here is a comparison of male and female pelvis. Male pelvis structure is thick and heavy. Structure of female pelvis is thin and light. Greater pelvis of male is a deep and in female it is shallow. Acetabulum is large and faces laterally in male and it is small and faces anteriorly in female. Pelvic inlet is small and heart shaped in male. It is large and more oval in female. Obturator foramen of the male pelvis are round shaped and it is oval shaped in female. Pubic arch of the male pelvis are lesser than 90-degree angle. Pubic arch of the female pelvis are more than 90-degree angle. Iliac crest of male pelvis are more curved. Iliac cervix of female pelvis are slightly curved. Ilium of the male pelvis is more vertical. Ilium of female pelvis is slightly vertical. Greater scachic nose of male pelvis is narrow. Greater scachic nose of female pelvis is wider. Sacrum of the male pelvis is narrow, large, and less curved at anteriorly, whereas in female it is wider, short, and more curved at anteriorly. Coccyx of the male pelvis is slightly curved and slightly movable at anterior. In case of female, it is more curved and more movable at anterior. Pelvic outlet of the male pelvis is narrow. In case of female, it is wider. And ischial tuberosity of male pelvis is longer and medially projects, where in female, short and lateral. Now the joints, a point of contact between bone and cartilage, and bone and teeth are called as joints or articulations. On the basis of structure, joints are classified as the presence or absence of space between the joints named as synovial cavity and type of connective tissue that unite the bone. First type, fibrous joints. Fibrous connective tissue is rich in the collagen fibers that held bones together without no or little movement. Fibrous joint has no synovial cavity, hence absence of synovial cavity. For example, frontal suture, sagittal suture, etc. Cartilaginous joints. Hyaline cartilage or fibrocartilage connecting the bone together without or slightly movement. Here is a lack of synovial cavity. Example, joints between the first ribs and sternum. Synovial joints. Synovial joints has a space between articulating joints named synovial cavity. Synovial cavity allows a joint for the free movement. Bones at synovial joints are covered by hyaline cartilage. Types of synovial joints. All synovial joints have generally similar structure and shape of the articulating surface are different that allow the various types of movements. Synovial joints are divided into the generally six types. First type is planar joint. Planar joint has a flat and roughly curved connecting surface of the bone. Planar generally allow the side to side and backward forward movement. A motion of the bone does not take place around an axis, hence name as non-axial joint. Example: joints between carpal bone at the wrist, joint between the tarsal bone at the ankle, joints between the scapula and clavicles, and joints between sternum and clavicles. Hinges joint. Hinge joints has a convex surface bone fixed into the concave surface of the other joint. Hinges joints has angular opening and closing motion action like hinged door. Hinges joints are monoaxial or uniaxial because movement of joints is around the axis. Example: joints between elbow, knee, ankle and interphalanges. Third, pivot joint. Pivot joint has a round surface of bone fitted with circularly formed bones or ligaments. Pivot joints are monoaxial that allow the movement around its axis. Example: radioulnar joints between the proximal and distal end, joints between atlas and axis. Fourth, condyloid joints. Condyloid joints has a convex oval-like surface of one bone articulate with the oval-like cavity surface of other bone. The condyloid joints is a biaxial joints that allow the movement around the two axes. Example: joints between the wrist and metacarpal phalanges for the second through fifth digits. Fifth, saddle joint. Saddle joint like articulations means sitting a rider on a horse. It is a modified joints of the condyloid joints. Saddle joints are biaxial that allow the movement side to side and upward downward. Example: the joints between the trapezium of the carpus and metacarpus of the thumb. Last type, ball and socket joints. Ball and socket joint has a ball-like surface of one bone articulated with the oval-like depression of the other bone. These bones are multiaxial and polyaxial because they allow the movement in all directions. Example: shoulder and hip joints. So guys, here we conclude the skeleton system. Thank you.